In this video, we are discussing the first 25 questions of the paper 2020. Question number 1, dimensions of Planck's constant. Remember the equation for the de Broglie wavelength. De Broglie wavelength lambda equal h over p. H is Planck constant, p is momentum of the particle. So h is lambda p. Using the dimensions of each quantity. For lambda it is L. For p, m L t minus 1. So you get m L squared t minus 1. Answer is 5. Otherwise you can use the energy of a quantum equation. E equal hf. H equal E over f. So using the dimensions in each quantity, you get ml squared t minus 1. Answer is 5. Question number 2. Figure shows the scale of a micrometer screw gauge. There figure 1 shows the zero error of the instrument. Figure B shows a reading of a diameter of a sphere. And they are asking for the correct diameter of the metal sphere. With the first figure, you can understand that the instrument is having a zero error because two zeros are not together. The linear scale 0 and the circular scale 0 are not in touch. So it has a zero error. First of all, we have to find the least count of the instrument. So least count is pitch divided by the number of parts in the circular scale. Pitch is 0.5 and number of parts is 50. So the least count is 0.01 millimeter. Then we have to find the zero error. There you can see that circular scale 0 is 3 lines below the horizontal line. So the zero error of the instrument is 3 into 0.01, that is 0.03 millimeter. Then we read the reading at the figure B. There you can see that 3.5 millimeters is passed in the horizontal in the linear scale, and we have to count how many parts have been gone in the circular scale. So it is 31. 31 parts have been passed the horizontal line. So your answer would be 3.5 plus 31 parts into 0.01, which is 3.81 millimeter. So the correct diameter is 3.81 minus 0 error. It is 3.78. The answer is 3. Question number 3. The threshold of hearing of a normal human ear is given. They are asking for the corresponding sound intensity level. Intensity level is given by 10 log I over I naught. I is intensity of sound, I naught is the threshold of hearing. So we substitute the values. 10 log, the given intensity is 10 to the power minus 12. 10 to the power minus 12 divided by threshold of hearing is also 10 to the power minus 12. So 10 to the power minus 12 divided by 10 to the power minus 12. So you get 10 log 1. Log 1 is 0. So intensity level is 0. Answer 1. Question number 4. Velocity time graph is given for an object moving along a straight line. They are asking for the average velocity. Average velocity is displacement over time. So you can find the displacement by calculating the area under the graph. So area is 3 into 3 for the big square, and the small square is 1 into 1. So total displacement is 10 divided by the time 4. The answer is 2.5. Answer 3. Question number 5. The figure shows a thin uniform rod AB of length capital L and mass M. They are asking for the moment of inertia of the rod about axis PQ parallel to the rod situated at a distance y. So when you look at the diagram, you can see each particle of the AB is at a distance y from PQ. So moment of inertia is given by mass into distance square. So when you take the AB rod as a whole, so the total mass is capital M. So moment of inertia about this axis PQ is my square. Answer 1. Question number 6. They are asking for the quark content of a proton and a neutron. You know that quarks are elementary particles and a fundamental constituents of matter. So quarks combine to form composite particles called hadron. Protons and neutrons are hadrons. So they are made up of quarks. There are different types of quarks: up quarks, down quarks, strange, charm, top, bottom, like that. So proton is made up of 2 up quarks and 1 down quark, and neutron is made up of 1 up quark and 2 down quark. Answer is 4. Question number 7. They are asking for the incorrect statement regarding seismic waves. Seismic waves occur due to falls of rocks inside the earth. We can find 2 types of seismic waves, P waves and S waves. P waves are primary waves, and again they are called as pressure waves. S waves, secondary waves, shear waves. We can compare pressure waves, P waves, with sound waves, and S waves with the waves in a string. We'll check the answers now. First one, all seismic waves are mechanical waves and require a medium to propagate. That is right. Then second one, primary P waves are longitudinal and secondary S waves are transverse. That is also true. We compare primary waves with sound waves and and they are longitudinal, and S waves with the waves in a string, so they are transverse. 2 is right. Speed of S waves is less than that of P waves. That is also true. S waves are secondary waves which are transverse, and P waves are longitudinal waves, and speed of transverse waves is less than the speed of longitudinal waves. That is right. Then fourth one, S waves can travel through both liquid and solid media. S waves, secondary waves, that is transverse waves. Transverse waves can go through solids but can't go through liquids. It can go on the surface of a liquid, that water waves, they form on the surface of the liquid, but they can't go through the liquid. So fourth one is wrong. And when we check for the fifth one, P waves can travel through both liquid and solid media. P waves are longitudinal waves. They can travel through both liquid and solid media. So 5 is also right. The incorrect statement is 4. Question number 8. A narrow beam of monochromatic light falls on a converging lens as shown in the figure, and it makes a light spot on the screen. They are asking for the position of the light spot. XY ray is not parallel to the principal axis. It falls on the lens at an angle to the principal axis. So it will not go through the focal point after refraction. So we want to trace the refracted ray of the XY ray. For that, we can draw a line parallel to the xy, which is going through the optical center of the lens. So you can see that line meets the screen at C, and that line crosses the focal plane at a point. So we mark that point as P. Then the refracted ray of the XY incident ray also should go through P, that point. So when you connect Y and P, it meets D. So the image, the light spot would be at D. Answer 4. Question number 9. Positions of particles of a transverse wave traveling along plus x direction at a certain instance is shown in the figure. They are asking which particles will have the same instantaneous velocity. This figure shows the positions of the particles at a certain instance of this transverse wave. And to find the positions of the particles at the next instance, you can shift this waveform a little further to the plus x direction. If you draw the shifted ray, you can see that B's position has been shifted downwards, C upward, E upward, F downward. When you think of the instantaneous velocity has a magnitude and the direction. B and C have same magnitudes of the displacement, and the magnitude of the velocity would be same. Then the direction, when you compare the direction of B and F, both are moving downwards. So the direction is also right. So the answer would be B and F. If you think of the other points, C and E also have the same instantaneous velocity, but it is not in the answer. So the answer would be 1. Question number 10. A small instrument is placed on a planet. The mass of the planet is 3 times and radius is 2 times that of the Earth. They are asking for the weight of the instrument on the surface of the planet. And also they say to neglect all the other effects except gravitation. If on the Earth we can write the weight of an object of mass m, mg. So g is the gravitational acceleration, and it is also called as gravitational field strength. We can write the formula for gravitational field strength on the Earth. Simple G equal capital G m over r squared. Capital G universal constant, and capital M is mass of the Earth, and r is the radius of the Earth. So simple G equal capital G capital M over r squared, and we write the same for the other planet. If the gravitational field strength is G dash, simple G dash equal G into 3m divided by 2r square. Then when you compare simple G and G dash, we can write simple G dash equal 3/4 of simple G. So to find the weight, it is the weight of a 1 kilogram mass. So it is mg 1 into 3/4 of g. So the answer is 15 by 2 Newton. Answer 3. Question number 11. Two identical transverse waves traveling in opposite directions along x-axis superimpose with each other and produce a standing wave. They are asking for the distance between a node and its adjacent antinode. These transverse waves traveling in opposite directions and superimpose, producing a standing wave. Now we see what is the wave pattern of this stationary wave. for 1 lambda. That is, for one wavelength, we'll look for the pattern of the wave. In 1 lambda, it has 2 loops. It has 2 loops. So, we can find lambda by using V equal F lambda. V is 30, F 300. Then lambda is 10 centimeter. In 10 centimeter, it has 2 loops. The length of one loop is 5 centimeter. And the question is to find the distance from node to the adjacent antinode. Then it is 2.5 centimeters. Answer 1. When you look at the diagram, you can see some wires are carrying current into the book, inside your book, and some wires are carrying current outside the book. So, to find the direction of the magnetic field produced at C due to each wire, we can use the right hand grip rule. Now, for the convenience, we label these wires top row. We take 1, 2, 3, and the second row 4, 5, third row 6, 7, 8. And let's consider the wires at 2 and 7. So they both carrying current inside the book. By right hand grip rule, you have to point your thumb inside the book, and then you can notice that your other 4 fingers are turning clockwise. So keep your finger at 2, pointing your thumb inside the book. So when you turn your fingers, you can see the direction of the magnetic field at C is to the left. And similarly, the magnetic field produced by the 7th wire is to the right. So they all are all the wires are carrying equal current. So these two magnetic field densities are equal, but in opposite directions. So they are being cancelled off. Likewise, 1 and 8. Wires 1 and 8, they also have the same magnitude and but opposite directions, so we can ignore that 2 also. Then 3 and 6, same, they are carrying current outside the book, so you have to point your finger upward, and other 4 fingers are turning anti-clockwise. So you can see the direction at C due to these 2 wires. They are opposite in direction. Magnitude is equal, so we can ignore that 2 wires. Then 4 and 5. 4 and 5, 4 is carrying current inside the book. So magnetic field due to 4 is at C is downwards, and when you go for the 5th one, so it's thumb pointing outward. You can see the magnetic field is at C is downward. So 4 and 5 gives the magnetic field at C downwards. So the total magnetic field must be downwards. So when you compare the answers, you have 1 and 4 showing downward magnetic field. Now we have to check for the magnitude. So the magnitude of the magnetic flux density produced d distance from the wire is given by mu naught I divided by 2 pi d. And when you take the 2 wires 4 and 5, and they both the magnetic field magnetic flux density at C is downward, so 2 times of mu naught I over 2 pi d, and also they have given mu naught over 4 pi equal 10 to the power minus 7. So with that you can find mu naught. Mu naught is 4 pi into 10 to the power minus 7. When you apply the values given in the equation, you get 40 microtesla. That is 40 into 10 to the power minus Tesla. That is 40 microtesla. Answer is 4. Question number 13. Two adjacent rooms A and B at same temperature connected by a closed door and their initial relative humidities are given. The volume of room A is twice that of room B, and they are asking for the final relative humidity of the rooms if the door is kept open for a long time at the same temperature. First of all, we define relative humidity. Relative humidity is the mass of water vapor present in air divided by mass of water vapor needed for saturation. Now we'll go for the question. It is given that volume of the A room is twice of the volume of B, and we suppose the mass of water vapor present in A is M1 and mass of water vapor present in B is M2. Because we can understand that relative humidities in both rooms are different, so it shows that it has different masses of water vapor in each room. And then we'll go for the equation of relative humidity, and also we should know that the humidity needed to saturate the B room is M. Then the mass of water vapor needed to saturate A must be 2M. Then we use the relative humidity equation to each room. When we take A first, we can write 60 equal M1 divided by 2M multiplied by 100. So M1 is 1.2 M. Then for the B room, 90 equal M2 divided by M into 100. So M2 is 0.9 M. When the door is open, the air will mix together and we can find the new relative humidity, that is equal to M1 plus M2. That the total water vapor inside the room, M1 plus M2 divided by the mass of the water vapor needed to saturate the two rooms is 3M into 100. So answer is 70%. Answer 2. Question number 14. A circuit diagram is shown in the figure. All batteries have negligible internal resistances, and they are asking what is the potential difference across C if the capacitor C is ideal. You know, when the current is passing through a capacitor, the capacitor starts to charge. Once it is fully charged, there will be no current passing in the through the capacitor. So there will be at that stage there will be no current passing through the 3-volt battery and through the capacitor. So we are starting from that point. Now we ignore 3-volt battery and the capacitor, and we assume that all the current is passing through the outer circuit. So we can mark the current in that circuit as I. So by using the Kirchhoff's law, we can write 3I plus 5I equal 6 minus 2. Kirchhoff's law. Then we can find I equal half ampere, 0.5 ampere. Then we take the two terminals of the 6-volt and 5-ohm branch. Then we can write 5I plus the potential difference across that branch V equals 6. 5I plus V equals 6. Then we find the potential difference across the 6 volt and 5 ohm branch. So it is 3.5 volt. Then same voltage must be having across the 3 volt and the capacitor branch. So it is also 6 volt, but it has a 3 volt battery. So 3 volt is already gone for the across the 3 volt battery, and the remaining 0.5 will be across the capacitor. So answer is 1. Question number 15. They are asking for the incorrect statement. First one. The electrical conductivity of an intrinsic semiconductor increases with increasing temperature. Intrinsic semiconductors are silicon, germanium. The bonds in these lattice are covalent bonds. When the temperature increases, these covalent bonds break and releases more charge carriers. So with the temperature, the electrical conductivity of an intrinsic semiconductor increases. First one is right. 2. A full wave rectifier cannot produce a constant DC output voltage for a sinusoidal input. A full wave rectifier can convert negative side of the sinusoidal wave to a positive output. But a full wave rectifier itself cannot produce a constant DC output voltage. The output voltage produced by the full wave rectifier has maximum values and minimum values. To produce a constant DC output voltage, a smoothing capacitor must be connected parallel to the output. Answer 2 is correct. Answer 3. In a bipolar transistor, the emitter is heavily doped than that of the collector. In a transistor, the emitter is the junction which emits charge carriers, and the collector is the junction which collects charge carriers. So, to emit charge carriers, the emitter must be heavily doped. Third one is right. 4. Drain current of a junction field effect transistor is maximum when gate to source voltage is 0. That is, ID is maximum when VGS is 0. In this case, there is no voltage between gate source terminal, that is VGS is 0. Then the drain current will flow from drain terminal to source terminal. In the working of JFET, VGS is less than 0. That is, VGS is to be reverse biased. When VGS is 0, that is, JFET is in the saturated region. So, a large magnitude of current will flow through the channel. ID is maximum. 4 is right. 5. When an op-amp is used as a voltage comparator, closed loop state is used. When an op-amp is used as a voltage comparator, it compares which input is greater than the other. Whether the non-inverting input or inverting input is larger than the other, and it gives the output according to that. Now the op-amp has two inputs. One is inverting input, the other one is non-inverting input. Inverting input is V minus, non-inverting input is V plus. If V plus is greater than V minus, then the output is plus, and it is equal to the positive value of the supply voltage. When V minus is greater than V plus, the output is minus, and it is equal to the minus value of the supply voltage. Now you can understand the output varies comparing whether V plus is greater than V minus or V minus is greater than V plus. To operate the op amp as such, it should be in the state of open loop. Closed loop state is the state where feedback resistors are connected. So here the answer 5 is wrong. So the answer is 5. Question number 16. A particle of mass m performs a simple harmonic motion. Maximum velocity is capital V and maximum acceleration is simple A. They are asking for an expression for angular frequency omega. Maximum velocity is given by amplitude times angular velocity, that is V equal A omega, A capital A for amplitude, omega angular velocity, V equal capital A omega. Then maximum acceleration is given by capital A times omega squared, that is amplitude multiplied by square of angular velocity. Simple A equal capital A omega squared. Then we divide one expression by the other. Then we get V divided by A equal omega divided by omega squared. Then we get omega is A over V. Answer is 4. Question number 17. The diagram shows a potentiometer circuit. The resistance of the potentiometer wire is 10 ohm. When R is 70 ohm, the balance length is 280 centimeters. They ask for the distance, the sliding key to be displaced along the potentiometer wire to get a balance point again when R is 80 ohm. Now you can see the cell with EMF E0 supplies current to the potentiometer circuit. The cell below the potentiometer wire AB has an EMF E, and that EMF is to be balanced by the potential difference given by the balance length. Suppose the resistance of the potentiometer wire is simple R, then the current in the potentiometer circuit is capital I. Then we can write E0 equal I into simple R plus capital R. When capital R is 70 ohm and simple R is always 10 ohm, that is the resistance of the potentiometer wire, and the current is I1, then we can write E0 equal I1 into 10 plus 70, that is I1 into 80. For the second case, we can write E0 equal I2 into 10 plus 80, that is I2 into 90. When we compare both expressions, we can understand that I1 is greater than I2. So the potential drop across the potentiometer wire vary with the change in the currents in the two instances. So suppose V1 is the potential drop across the potentiometer wire AB is V1 when capital R is 70 ohm, and V2 when capital R is 80 ohm. Now we know that V1 is greater than V2 because I1 is greater than I2. When the potential drop across the AB wire is more, then the balance length would be low. So when you compare V1 is greater than V2, then you get L1 is smaller than L2. Then by taking the ratios, 280 divided by 80 multiplied by 90, we get 315 centimeters. Then the distance that the sliding key to be displaced equal 315 minus 280, which is 35 centimeter. Answer is 3. Question number 18. Logical inputs A, B and C of the given circuit is shown below. They are asking for the shape of the correct output. Now when you look at the inputs, you can see the A input starting with 0 and then 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. And for the B, it is 0, 0 and then 1 for some time and then again 0. For C, it starts with 0 and then 1, 0 for some time and then 1 again and 0. We will draw a table using the relevant zeros and ones as in the inputs given in the diagram. So we start with the column A in the table with A input. Column A is for the input A. So you can fill 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0 for A. And second column for the input B. It is 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0. And you can see that A and B are the two inputs to the AND gate. So we can write the output of the AND gate. Suppose the output is X dash, then the third column is X dash, then we'll fill that column. A is 0, B is 0, A and B is 0, X dash is 0. Then A1, B0, X dash is 0 since this is an AND gate. Then 0, 1 is 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Then this X dash and C are inputs to an OR gate. So let's fill the next column C. It is for the input C. C is 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. Now X dash and C are inputs for the OR gate. So the output of the OR gate will be the first row, X dash is 0, C is 0. Then X output of the AND gate is 0. Then X dash 0, C1, X is 1. Then 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. So you can see the zeros and ones in the output. So when we compare this with the answers, the answer is 2. Question number 19. The combined object as in the figure is formed by joining 4 metal rings A, B, C and D of radii R, 2R, 2R and 3R respectively, made out of same uniform wire. They are asking for the distance to the center of gravity of the combined object from point X. The center of gravity is the point where the weight of the object acts on. Firstly, we find the weight of each object. Circumference of A is 2 pi, B 2 pi into 2R, it is 4 pi R. Circumference of C 4 pi R, D 6 pi R, that is 2 pi into 3R, 6 pi R. Since all these rings are made of same material, we can write mass is proportional to circumference. If the mass of A is m, then B is 2m, C 2m, D 3m. Weights of A mg, B 2mg, C 2mg, D 3mg. When you look at the diagram, you can see B and C are identical. So the center of gravity of the combined B and C is at X. So the weight of B and C, that is 4 mg, acts at X. It is not necessary to take 2 mg of each B and C separately. So we can, instead of taking 2 mg two times, we can consider 4 mg acting at X. Weight of A, that is mg, acts at the center of A. 3 mg acts at the center of D. You can mark all these forces in the diagram. So those are 4 mg at X, mg at the center of A, 3 mg at the center of D. Then weight of the combined object is 8 mg, that acts at the center of gravity of the combined object. We say that point is G, capital G. G lies on the dashed line on the same side as A, B and D are located. So we have to find the distance from X to G. By taking the moments about X, we can write 8 mg into the distance Gx equal 3 mg into 3r plus mg into r. Then Gx is 5r over 4. Answer is 2. Question number 20. The figure shows how water and coconut oil settles inside a U-tube. Water and oil interface is at the middle of the tube and it is vertical. They have given 3 expressions. You are asked to find the correct expressions. A. Pressure at P is equal to pressure at Q. That expression is correct. The pressure on the interface of the oil must be equal to that of by water. If not, the interface would shift to a side from the middle. So A is right. B. H1 rho W is equal to H2 rho O. Now we said that expression A is correct. So by equating the liquid pressure at the level PQ, we can write H1 rho Wg equal H2 rho Og. By that we can get H1 rho W equal H2 rho O. B is right. Then C, H3 rho W is equal to H4 rho O. The liquid level corresponds to the expression C is not for the same liquid. Only the liquid pressure at the same level of the same liquid is equal. But here the level is same, but the liquids are not same. So C is not correct. Only A and B are correct. So answer is 3. Question number 21. Two identical opened pipes are sounded with their fundamental notes at 15 degrees Celsius. The variation of velocity of sound in air with the temperature is given by V equal 331 plus 0.6 theta, and theta is in Celsius. They are asking what would be the number of beats produced per second if the temperature of one pipe is raised to 30 degrees Celsius. The number of beats produced per second is given by the difference in frequencies of the sound wave at two different temperatures. First we draw the wave pattern inside the tube at 15 degrees Celsius. So it is a half lambda, that the wave pattern is equivalent to a half lambda. At the ends it has antinodes. At the middle it's a node, so you can understand the wave pattern. So it is the length of that 50 centimeter is equal to half lambda. Then lambda is 100 centimeter, that is 1 meter. And they have given that the variation of velocity of sound in air is given by v equal 331 plus 0.6 theta. When you look at that expression, you can see it resembles to y equal mx plus c. Y is v, x is theta. So you can draw v theta graph. V in y-axis, theta in x-axis, and the gradient of it is 0.6 and the intercept is 331. You can mark the speed of sound at 15 degrees Celsius is v1 and at 30 it is v2. So you can mark v1, v2 on the graph. Then taking the gradient, you can write v2 minus v1 divide by 30 minus 15 equal 0.6. That is v2 minus v1 equal 0.6 into change in temperature is 15. So v2 minus v1 equal 9. And v is f lambda. So v2 is f2 lambda. V1 f1 lambda. Lambda is same here. Lambda is 1 meter. So f2 into 1 minus f1 into 1 equal 9. So by that you get f2 minus f1 equal 9. Answer is 3. Question number 22. Two blocks of masses are connected by a massless inextensible string which goes over massless smooth pulley as shown in the figure. Coefficient of dynamic friction is given and they are asking for the force F needed to drag the block B to the left with a constant speed. Let's mark the forces on each block. A. The mass of A is 0.5 kilogram, so weight is 5 Newton downwards. And when you take B, you have to take the total mass of 0.5 and 1 kilogram, that is 1.5 kilogram, so 15 Newton downwards on B. Then mark the tension. Tension at A to the right side, we mark it as T to the right side, and the same string, so same tension on B which is equal to T to the right side. Then A is moving to the right side, so there will be a frictional force on A by B. We mark that force as Fa. So Fa to the left on A. As to the Newton's third law, there will be a opposite force which is equal to Fa on top of B. So that is the force exerted on B by A due to the frictional force. So Fa on top of B to the right side. Then another frictional force on FB. FB is moving to the left side, that force is to the left side, so B will move to the F side. Then there will be a force, frictional force on B by the surface in contact, that is FB to the right side on B. Now we use F equal mu r to find these frictional forces. Mu is given. First we find Fa by using F equal mu r to the A block. So Fa equal mu is 0.25 and r is the normal force, it is 5. So Fa is 1.25. Fb using F equal mu r again to B, it is 0.25 into 15, 3.75. And when you look at A, it is moving at a constant speed. A and B both move at a constant speed. So for A, we can write T equal Fa, no acceleration. So tension T equal Fa. And there you know that T1 is also 1.25 Newton. Then by using F equal ma to the whole system, then we use F equal ma to the left side. So F minus 2t minus Fb equal acceleration is 0 equals 0. F minus 2t minus Fb equals 0. Fa will not come to effect because two Fas are there in opposite directions. So they will not come to effect. So F equal 2t plus Fb, then by substituting the values, answer will become 6.25 Newton. Answer is 4. Question number 23. A projectile suddenly explodes into two fragments with equal masses at the highest point of its trajectory. If one fragment falls vertically downwards with an initial velocity, they are asking which of the following diagrams best represents the path of the other fragment. And also they say neglect air resistance, and the broken line represents the path of the projectile if there was no explosion. P is the highest point of the trajectory. So at P, projectile has only the horizontal velocity. So its momentum is also horizontal and the direction of the momentum is to the right side. Even after the explosion, two masses should have their momentum to the same direction, that is to the right. But one mass has a velocity downward. So the other mass must have velocities upward as well as to the right side. As to the conservation of linear momentum. So out of the answers, we can select 4 and 5. One mass falls straight downward. When you compare the horizontal distances, the distance to the second mass on the ground should be equal to that of the first mass from the point where the projectile would fall if there was no explosion. So the answer would be 4. Question number 24. Two thermodynamic processes of a closed system of an ideal gas are shown in the figure, and the heat absorbed by the system is given. They are asking the change in internal energy in the process AC. Let's take the process A to B and B to C first. Taking the first law of thermodynamics, which is delta Q equal delta U plus delta W, the heat absorbed when in the process from A to B and B to C is 6 kilojoule plus 1.8 kilojoules. So 6 plus 1.8 equal, we want to find the internal energy delta U plus delta W is work done by the system. So that can be found by P delta V. P is 8 into 10 to the power 5. V is 5 minus 2 into 10 to the power minus 3, which is equal to 2.4 kilojoule. Then delta W is 2.4. Delta Q is 7.8. Delta W is 2.4. Then delta U is 5.4. The answer would be 2. Let's see why it is. We take the processes A to B and B to C separately. Let's take A to B first. Then use the same equation, delta Q equal delta U plus delta W. Delta Q is 6. We want to find delta U, and delta W is 0 because there is no change in volume. So delta U is 6 for the process A to B. Then we consider the process from B to C. Then again we use the same equation, delta Q equal delta U plus delta W. Delta Q is 1.8, delta U is the unknown quantity that we have to find, and delta W is 2.4, which we calculated before from P into delta V. Then you get delta U as minus 0.6. Which can't be accepted because internal energy change must be positive because temperature increases. With the increase in temperature, delta U must be a positive value. So there is a contradiction there. So that is why they have given all for that question. Question number 25. 3-point charges are placed at vertices of an equilateral triangle as shown in the figure. They are asking for the electric potential energy of the system. Electric potential at a point r distance from a point charge is given by V equal Q over 4 pi epsilon naught r. Here in this question they are asking for the potential energy of this system. What is electric potential energy? Electric potential energy is the energy that is needed to move a charge against an electric field, and that can be calculated by Q1 Q2 over 4 pi epsilon naught r. Q1 and Q2 are the two charges, and r is the distance between the that two charges. So the potential energy can be found by 3Q multiplied by 4Q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. Distance is A here. So it is 12Q squared divided by 4 pi epsilon naught A. And the potential energy, electrical potential energy due to 4Q and minus Q is 4Q into minus Q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught A. So which is equal to minus 4Q squared over 4 pi epsilon naught A. And then the potential energy due to plus 3Q and minus Q. That is equal to minus 3Q squared over 4 pi epsilon naught A. And the combined potential energy can be found by adding all these three values. So that is equal to 5Q squared divided by 4 pi epsilon naught A. The answer is 1. I will discuss the other questions of this paper in the next video. You can subscribe the channel to see my next videos. Thank you.